Alright guys, welcome back to another video. I am really going to try to make this video be the video that shows you everything. The settings, why I do what I do. I'm going to try something a little different, put more effort into these videos, and hopefully that translates into more people watching. You guys saw my settings there, but let me put it up on screen. A lot of you asked me what my settings are, and so I'm gonna take the time to put them up, even though it takes me way longer to make these videos as a result. I really don't think that you should get hung up on the settings though, but you should know what I'm trying to do here is balance the light to look pleasing. Like, you look at these photos and you could tell there's some kind of flash because of the way that the shadows are created, but you know, I try to avoid them, and sometimes it's not avoidable, but I always try to make it so that it doesn't look like I'm using flash. It's just a little kiss of light. So I put the flash at really low settings. Here I am again taking shots of this at a really low setting. You cannot tell actually from this that I'm using flash, right? Okay, so when I take photos of like the cake, for example, the light's coming from this way. And since I forgot one of my triggers in the car, I'll switch it from this one to this camera, the 85mm. Every time I take a photo with flash, step one is to figure out the ambient light. How does it look without flash? I underexpose a little bit, then I add light, and look at that gradation of light coming from the left hand side. These are the settings that I figured out where what I wanted it to look without flash, and then I added the light, and this is how it looks, and I really like that. This is the way that I think about every time I use the flash. I get the ambient light, I decide how much ambient light needs to be in the shot, then I add the flash. My flash is almost always at the lowest power. I only up the power for certain situations that are coming up, so if you stick around to watch the video, you'll see. So my light is to my left hand side there, but I'm shooting to the right. I am on the 35mm and 85mm, so I use the light directionally. If I was using bounce flash, I'd have to bounce it to the left hand side to get this kind of look, but bouncing it is so inconsistent as opposed to having the light there. Look at this. These are cool shots, I think. These are close-ups, of course. I get other kinds. Just stick around, give me a chance, and watch the rest. And I think a lot of you can learn something from this. I have been taking somebody with me to weddings. He's a cool guy. He's learning a lot. I think he already knew a lot, but he's learning a lot about flash and the way I do things. And these are the kinds of results I'm getting. But here I am upping the flash power, and you'll see why. Okay, so now I am going to do something here. I'm going to move my light. Right now I'm shooting from the right hand side with the light to the left hand side, but I want to get a variety of photos, and this is basically the only thing happening right now during the cocktail hour. So I move the light to the right, sorry, but I myself move to the left to give the light a little bit of an angle. You don't want to just shoot from where the light is coming from, because, well, what's the point of that? Might as well just shoot direct flash, right? So check it out. I'm showing you my settings, but I don't want you to think that I have it all figured out as soon as I get to position, that I know which settings to use. Sometimes I get the wrong settings, but I make the photo work. I try my best to get to it as soon as possible. So what I do in every situation, like I said, is I go to where I need to be, I get the ambient light, and then I add light. Here, the grand entrances are coming up. So the light is to my right and people are coming in. So I don't use bounce flash. This is all direct flash, but it's directional direct flash. And I like these results. Let me show you my settings. What you didn't see is that I had my assistant stand there for a few test shots, and I liked how it looked. The light is still to my right. I had to move it back a little bit, and because it was a little too hot, but I like it better. These adjustments that you make are easier to make when you have somebody helping you, of course. If it was just me, which, you know, these days it's kind of just me, I would have moved the light back myself in between people walking in. So I get these kinds of results coming from the light to the right hand side with the same settings, I think. Let me check. Yes, the same settings. It's just that I moved the light back a little bit, so it's not quite that hot when I get the pictures at this part right here. So they're coming in. I use that continuous focus with that rectangle in the middle just to make sure that I have focus on them. And so when you're doing a wedding, all these people coming in, hopefully you got it right, the first time. But if you didn't, it's coming up soon that you better get it right because the bride and groom are coming. Take a whole bunch of shots because they tend to close their eyes and all that stuff. You know how it goes. And you get the shots. They did their little dance at the beginning. I would have rather preferred that they did their little entrance dance by the time they got to the dance floor, but they didn't. That's why I did it here. If you have time, you'll want to make minor adjustments. Luckily, I'm able to get to my settings that I need to be at pretty quickly. So you make the adjustments if you need to and you get them, and then you keep going. And I think these results are much better than bounce flash and also much better than direct flash. And they're really consistent. These are really, really easy to edit because they're all taken at the same power, same settings. I'm trying to find a balance between showing you as much as I can without boring you to death. If you're a wedding photographer, then this is really interesting to you. If you're somebody looking to hire me, then this is probably really interesting to you too, to see how I do things. I think sometimes people just don't think. Did you guys see that lady just walk in front of them, totally get in the way? Yeah, I don't get that, man. That's unfortunate. But I got some good ones. It's just this lady's in some of the shots. So look, the first dance is happening. There's a light all the way at the top of the second floor, second story to the right. There's my assistant. I'm telling him move over there because when they make the turn, they're doing it clockwise, right? Or is that counter? No, that's clockwise. And when they make that turn, when they're exposing their faces to me, that's when I'm getting the shots right there. Okay, so look, the entrance to the first dance, it was seamless. It happened right away. The entrance photos were taken at 2.2. The dance photos were taken at 2.5. It's only a little bit of a difference. Why did I close it up a little bit? I closed the aperture a little bit because now I'm contending with the light from the DJ. And it's coming towards me and it's kind of strong. So I close my aperture and I up the flash power by a little bit to compensate. That way I can try to still incorporate the DJ's lights and like the backlighting and use my own light to illuminate their face. I told the DJ to turn the lights off, but they didn't, and that sucks. They didn't listen to me. These are some other photos I took that I don't have GoPro footage of. Now we're going to the speeches, right? The light is almost always to my right hand side. It's slightly pointing forward. Some of it is bouncing forward, upwards, but it's mostly going forward. And these days I actually learned not even to face it up that way. I just kind of face it all towards them. To not waste any flash power, to keep the flash power minimal. So I am using my AD200 here with my assistant holding it. Sometimes I don't have an assistant. Today I did because this space is really tight, and when people start dancing, I don't want people tripping over my light stand, you know? So these are the results that I get from that. You can see from the GoPro footage kind of how dark it is and the different kinds of mixtures of light. I think this looks really good. What do you think? Once you have your flash down, your whole settings there, you can move around the flash, or you can have your assistant move. I move the assistant further down the middle of the table, pointing towards them, and I moved. I can get different looks this way without bouncing it, and all these photos are super consistent. The settings that I'm using are such that I am comfortable with the ambient light the way it is. The ISOs are pretty high, but they're not that high. These cameras can handle it. The shutter speed is slow, and you're probably thinking it's too slow, but do you see blur here? if you wanted to meet up with me, I can show you not one has motion blur, because I am using enough flash to kind of not, maybe not freeze them, but they're not exactly moving really fast. They're just standing there. So 1/125 is fine. If I noticed there was motion blur, and I would notice because I check, I would up that a little bit. But I'm trying to let more ambient light in. That's the whole point of me getting it to 1/125, to let more of the natural ambient light, the aesthetic of the place. And then I'm just using a little bit of flash from the left, and then the one to the top right that you see going off, I really don't use those anymore. This is an old video, so I'm more concentrated on one light, not three lights. If there is enough ambient light in the place, I don't need those extra lights. If there is no ambient light around the place, then I will set up other flashes. But I am perfectly happy with this. I like how this looks. Let me know what you think. So part of what I do is I give a lot of variety, from the right, from the left, straight on, with the 85mm lens, with the 35mm. So that's just how I do things. I know some people carry one camera. They use two, but they carry one at a time, so they tend to get one focal length. That's just one person that I know like that. Do you guys do that? Do you carry two cameras? It's heavy, I know, carrying two cameras around all the time. But what do you guys do? I'm really curious, so let me know. Let me actually bring up another point that you see me putting on the trigger, right? Today it was because I forgot the second trigger in my car, and I just didn't go back and get it. But this is actually was the first day where I started using one trigger, and I started doing that because if I leave my settings the same on each camera, so they're the same as each other, and I transfer the trigger from one camera to the other, then everything should be the same. The settings on the camera and the settings on the flash power. So I find now that that's actually the best way for me to do it, as opposed to having two triggers, both of them with different settings for the flash, and then having to change it or whatever, right? Now they're all the same. I like that. So during the COVID times, and they let you have people over in an enclosed area, people were still wearing masks. I get it, but again, this guy's wearing the mask like a chin diaper, which if you've seen the first video, there was other people, actually there was a few videos back where there were people wearing them as chin diapers. It annoys me. Okay, so now you saw my settings, the metadata. So look, I have my ISOs pretty high. I have my shutter speed really low, and I have my aperture pretty wide open. So my settings for my flash, the power, I cannot tell you exactly what it is because I don't remember. But I am fairly certain it was probably 1/128. Maybe a little higher. But I wait till they make the turn and capture that, and I like this a lot for a couple reasons. The face is lit up enough. Some might think it might be a little too bright. That's cool. That's your opinion. I think it looks good. But I also capture the ambient light the way it is. I never want to just drown out the ambient light because, that's part of the aesthetic that they chose this venue for. But if it's really bad, the lighting, then I will cancel it out with my settings. But in this case, I have it pretty wide open. I have a lot of ambient light flooding into my pictures with just a kiss of flash. And I like that. So right here, I'm not really taking any pictures, but I'm waiting in there. He's showing his face. I use single point focus. I get it on his face, and then I record a little bit, which I'm sure you've seen me do that. And I've seen some of my other videos where I do trailers too. Look, got composition, got the shot, got the focus on his face, and then recompose the shot and got these. That's the way I do it. I just don't trust autofocus to do it. Even if I had a Sony or something else that you feel is a better autofocusing camera, I wouldn't trust it. I only trust myself. I really don't want to oversimplify things. I get that this is hard. There is things to consider like your flash sync speed and stuff, but not for me, not at the settings that I'm taking at. But the rest of the night is pretty much more of the same. It is. Except for the fact that I haven't really mentioned that second light. The truth is, like I said before, I don't use it that much anymore. It actually kind of bothers me in the shot now, but it's there and I take pride in it still, but that's not the way I do things anymore. I use one light, two if necessary. Right here, two would not be necessary. This is where it gets interesting though, because of the focusing that I'm using here. I'm using single point and recompose. Look, I got focus on her, him, take the shot. I know that's pretty much not the way you guys would do it. You would use eye autofocusing. And the truth is, I kind of go back and forth between the way I do things. If they're moving too fast, I will use the eye autofocusing within the rectangle down the middle or to the left or something. But they weren't moving that fast, and I'm really comfortable doing single point in the middle and then recomposing. You know, a few months ago, this is now 2023, a few months ago I got COVID at a wedding. That sucked. Back then, you really didn't want COVID. Even more so than now, But I didn't want to get into the middle of the dance floor taking photos. So I'm on the outskirts and getting whomever is on my line of sight. That's the way I do things now for the most part. I don't really try to get in there, although it is nice to do that sometimes, but it's just so crowded sometimes, you just cannot do it really easily. So for the most part, I do stay on the outskirts and I get whomever is there. Sometimes there's nice ladies in the way, so I just shove them out of the way like I did right there. And I take the shot. This is at 1.8. It may be a little too shallow because it is too shallow. The lady on the left is slightly out of focus. But you're going, around taking pictures. It's difficult to just change the settings on the spot because changing my settings would also mean changing my flash power because now I'm closing the aperture a little bit. And yes, I could have done it, but in the moment, things are happening so fast. Sometimes you don't do that. And I totally understand if you don't, because I don't. So keep going, do the best you can. Try to get them in the same plane so that you get them all in focus and you're good. Although this is the dance portion of it. Generally, you don't really pose people. It's loud. But what are you going to do? You do your best and you get really nice results, I think. A good thing to do, at least for a good solid 20 minutes when they're dancing, is to follow the bride and the groom around. See if they want pictures with people. Try to get them dancing with different people. Try to get a variety of shots as best you can. So check it out. These are some photos I took that I have no GoPro footage of. Aperture is 2. Now it's 5.6. Why? Because look at those people, man. 5.6 opens it up, and flash power lights them up. This is at 1.8. This is fine, I'm letting more ambient light in.
We need all the fellas that are single and all the fellas that are in a relationship on the dance floor right now. We need your help. Back up the groom right now.
Look, I muted the video at this point because the music came on and it was so loud. And I'm telling the groom, stay here. Right here is where you're going to throw it that way towards the DJ, right? Because I want the DJ lights behind him. Look at all those crazy lights going on. They're everywhere. So I want it to be like this because I have space to get back a little bit of space and be able to get the shot. But look, they're not listening. He's over there having a great time talking, and I'm here waiting. Like, all right, are you coming back where I yelled out for you to stay? And then my assistant is right there, and he's right there, and I'm like, hey, no, let's go over there. And nobody's listening because everybody's having a great time, and I'm just like, okay, come on, let's go over here where I said. And he's not listening, and I'm like, F it, dude. At some point, I'm like, all right, that's just move back, and then I get my assistant to move. Why? Because I want the light to come from a directional point of view, not straight on. And so I'm testing here. 1, 2, I'm testing. It's too bright. Okay, let me lower my flash, and test it again. Oh, no time for test. He threw it. This is not the way that I would want to get this shot. Oh, he threw a fake one. Oh, so that was a test. So now I'm ready. This guy catches it. Bam. Let's see how it turned out. So this is not ideal, but it's not bad. It's just this is not what I would want to get. I want to get a full body and vertical so that when he shoots it up, I still have more of a chance of getting the shot with the actual flying of the garter. But, you know, you do what you can, right? Everything moves really quick. So I've been to this venue more than a few times, and this is the first time they wanted to throw the bouquet from these stairs. So there isn't much of a way that I can get the light to be more directional than what I got it to be, but I think the photos turn out really good. Listen guys, if you enjoy these kinds of videos, especially the way that I made it today where I'm showing you the settings, let me know, because this does take way more work and I don't want to do all this if it doesn't help you guys out. So let me know, okay? Thanks.